Business has an enormously important role to play in driving positive social change in society. I always believed in that, but when I was asked to come to IKEA 7 years ago, I became absolutely convinced. Now, I don't really work for IKEA. I work for IKEA Foundation, and I have the privilege of spending some of IKEA's profits in helping children, youth, create a better life for themselves and their families. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about today, because we want to talk about what business can do. So I'm going to try to represent the business without working for the business. I do know them pretty well, though. One thing that really impressed me when I came to IKEA is that IKEA doesn't have a department for corporate social responsibility. Sustainability and social responsibility is how they do business. So it's not separate. It's a business philosophy. That's how they work as a company. Children are at the heart of IKEA's business. Children are described as the most important people in the world. And although I run a foundation where I spend millions and millions on creating better opportunities for children and youth, I truly believe that the work that's done by IKEA through the business is much more important than what I do. So this is really not about CSR. This is about how you run your business and how you drive change on the day-to-day in your business. So let me try to leave you with three thoughts before we go into the discussion. The first thought is, it's all about purpose. And purpose is driven by values and by culture. IKEA is based on very strong values. Actually, it's so focused on values that they hire people for values before they hire people for competencies. That makes for a very strong culture. And it's about purpose. And you really need to have more of a purpose than just driving shareholder value if you want to succeed in this world, especially today. And that's what they understood 25 years ago, or 50 years ago. Actually, 70 years ago, when Ingvar Kamprad started the business when he was 17 years old. It's not a choice between making profit or doing good. Actually, the combination makes for a very solid business. So that was the first thought. It's all about purpose. The second thought is, preventing child labor is just the beginning. Business can play many different roles in society and improving children's rights in society. Of course, the start is really about having a policy, and having a policy that's rooted at the top of the company, and that's driven by values and driven by a purpose. But policy is just a starting point. If you look at what companies can do, I mean, you can drive child-friendly policies inside your business. You can do it in your supply chain. You can manufacture child-friendly products in your supply chain. You can ensure that you have child-friendly spaces and everywhere you operate. You can ensure that you don't do any direct marketing to children under 18. You can advocate for children's rights, such as what IKEA has done in working closely with UNICEF and others to develop the business principles, has been referred to many times today. You can arrange a workplace that accommodates young parents, so it's possible for a woman to take her child to work, for example, or a husband to take his child to work and have a kindergarten at work, so it's possible to combine family life and work life. There are lots of things that companies can do in order to improve the opportunities for children directly or indirectly, depending on what kind of business you're in. The third thought I want to leave before we close up is really that this is about constant improvement. That's the model. And if you look at what IKEA has done, and for those of you who are interested, there is a case study on the app, which gives you the opportunity to read the whole story. I'll try to represent a couple of highlights that builds up under the point of being on a journey. IKEA has been on the journey for at least 25 years when it comes to focus on children. It was only in 1990 that they actually developed a separate unit, a separate business unit that's called Children's IKEA, that it's focused on children's products in the beginning. That led on to developing a policy for zero tolerance when it comes to health and safety issues related to children's products or children's areas. Moving on, the company took it further and looked at how can we see everything we do, every product we develop through children's eyes. How can we create a home that is children safe, that prevents children from having accidents in homes, for example. So home safety becomes very important for a company that lives off of families and children as their main focus. Now, back in 1994, IKEA, as so many other companies, experienced child labor issues in their supply chain here in Asia, not in Malaysia, but in another country. And given the kind of values that IKEA is based on, it was obvious to the company that this is just not about getting the children out of the manufacturing, because that's pretty easy to do that. But it doesn't do anything for the children or for their families. There's a reason why children work. So IKEA thought maybe there's something we can do to help address the root causes of child labor. So they teamed up with organizations who know something about that, such as UNICEF and Save the Children, and look at how can we drive processes around health and around education to try to help address the root causes of child labor. It was an obvious thing for the company to do because they're very value-based. In 1998, they developed the first code of conduct for which they call IKEA Way of Preventing Child Labor, which is focusing on the child labor issue as such, but also moving the whole issue around children one step forward. And in 2005, they established something called the IKEA Social Initiative. And in a way, you can look at that as a precursor for the foundation and the work that we do today, which was really about taking a more proactive role, not only dealing with the child labor issues, but actually taking a much more proactive role in helping develop children's opportunities in poor societies that overlapped with the areas that we had a supply chain as a company. And today, if you are interacting with children, or actually if you are in the store, you have to go through IKEA Children's School in order to understand better how you see the world from children's eyes and how you provide safety in the stores and how you ensure that everything is focused around children's rights and children's opportunities to be part of what we're trying to do together. Recently, the company also provided more thinking into young workers. So we have a special program for workers for 15 to 18 to see how can we employ workers for 15 to 18 in a responsible way. And it's just moving on in terms of trying to look for opportunities for the growing number of young people coming out of the different countries where we are actively involved in the supply chain. So, and of course, if on top of that you can take the opportunity to have a foundation, that's in the way I look at it, is the icing on the cake. What's happening through the company, in the kind of leadership the company has taken, in specifically when it comes to children's issues, but of course also in the environmental space and other areas, is so important in terms of taking leadership and setting an example and showing that this is the way to go, and this is actually the more sustainable way to go. So today, in today's world, the leading question for most of the people who are leaders in IKEA is really, what's in the best interest of the child? And that's become part of the business philosophy in how they develop and drive the business. It's based in the values and the corporate culture. And let's not forget, it's very good for business too. Thank you.